Imagine for a moment that you could step outside your own life and observe your daily patterns as if watching a film. What would you notice? The way you move through your home, the rhythm of your mornings and evenings, the spaces where you spend your time, the small tasks that fill your hours. Now consider this. Researchers who study healthy aging have found something surprising about people who maintain their vitality into their 8th and 9th decades. It is not usually dramatic interventions that set them apart. It is not expensive treatments or exotic supplements or rigorous exercise programs that most people cannot sustain. What sets them apart is quieter. It is the accumulation of ordinary moments, the daily patterns that most of us never think to examine. And here is what makes this relevant to you. Some of those patterns accelerate the changes we associate with aging, while others seem to slow them down. The difference is not in what you do occasionally. The difference is in what you do daily. There is a factor that your doctor rarely mentions when discussing independence and vitality. It is not measured in blood work. It does not appear on any standard health assessment. Yet it may influence how well you move through your later years as much as any medical intervention. This factor lives in your hands, in your daily movements, in the spaces you inhabit, in the rhythm of your ordinary hours. And the quiet mistake most people make is overlooking it entirely. You are listening to the Longevity Library, where we archive the wisdom of healthy aging. What older bodies have always known about health, longevity, and daily life. There is a question that occupies the minds of many people as they move through their 7th decade and beyond. It is not usually spoken aloud, but it sits beneath the surface of countless small decisions and quiet moments of reflection. The question is simply this: what actually matters for the years ahead? After a lifetime of accumulated wisdom, of watching what works and what does not, of experiencing the body's changes firsthand, the noise begins to fall away. The dramatic promises and the urgent recommendations lose their power. What remains is a quieter inquiry, a genuine curiosity about what truly supports well-being in the later decades of life. This essay is an exploration of that question. It draws on patterns observed across generations, on what human bodies have always responded to, on the simple and often overlooked foundations of sustained vitality. It is not a guide to reversing aging or conquering disease. It is an examination of the daily circumstances, the small repeated actions, and the environmental conditions that research suggests may influence how well we move through our later years. What emerges from this examination is both surprising and reassuring. The factors that appear most consistently associated with longer, healthier lives are not complicated or difficult to access. They do not require expensive interventions or dramatic lifestyle overhauls. They are, in many ways, the very things that older adults have known all along, the quiet wisdom of bodies that have been paying attention for decades. Part 1. Understanding the body's changing landscape. To understand what supports well-being in later life, it helps first to understand what is actually happening within the aging body, not in a technical or clinical sense, but in a way that honors the body's inherent intelligence and its gradual, predictable changes. Every human body is engaged in a constant process of renewal and maintenance. Cells divide and replace themselves. Tissues repair minor damage. Systems communicate with one another to maintain balance. This process continues throughout life, but it does slow with time. The pace of cellular renewal gradually decreases. The efficiency of repair mechanisms gradually diminishes. This is not a failure of the body. It is the natural progression of a complex biological system operating over many decades. What this means in practical terms is that the body becomes more sensitive to its environment over time. The cumulative effects of daily choices become more visible. The body's ability to buffer against stress, whether physical, emotional, or environmental, becomes somewhat reduced. Small imbalances that might have gone unnoticed in earlier decades now register more clearly. This increased sensitivity is not necessarily a problem. In fact, it can be understood as a form of wisdom. The aging body is exceptionally good at sending signals, at indicating what it needs and what it does not appreciate. The challenge is learning to recognize and respond to those signals with the same patience and attention they deserve. Consider how this plays out in daily life. A younger body might tolerate a night of poor sleep without noticeable effect. An older body is more likely to register that disruption, to feel it in energy levels, in mood, in mental clarity the following day. This is not a weakness. It is the body's way of saying that sleep matters, that rest is not optional but essential, that the rhythms of day and night still govern our biology regardless of how much we might wish otherwise. The same principle applies to movement, to nutrition, to social connection, to the quality of our indoor environments. The aging body is not fragile in the sense of being breakable. It is finely tuned in the sense of being highly responsive. It rewards attention and consistency. It penalizes neglect and irregularity. This is the fundamental dynamic that underlies everything else we might consider about health in later life. Part 2. The body in motion. Among the most consistent observations in research on healthy aging is the association between regular physical movement and sustained well-being. This is not news to most people. What may be less understood is why movement matters so deeply, and what kind of movement seems to provide the most benefit for older bodies. The human body was designed for motion. Every system within it expects and requires movement to function optimally. The cardiovascular system needs movement to maintain elastic blood vessels and efficient circulation. The musculoskeletal system needs movement to preserve bone density and muscle mass. The metabolic system needs movement to regulate blood sugar and energy utilization. The nervous system needs movement to maintain coordination and cognitive function. When movement is absent for extended periods, these systems begin to adapt to the lack of demand. Muscles gradually become smaller and weaker. Bones gradually become less dense. Joints gradually become stiffer. Circulation gradually becomes less efficient. These changes are not immediate, and they are not irreversible, but they are cumulative. The body is always adapting to whatever conditions it experiences most regularly. This is where a subtle but important shift in perspective can be helpful. Instead of thinking about exercise as something added to life, an extra task to be completed, it may be more accurate to think about movement as something subtracted when it is absent. The body that moves regularly is not doing something extraordinary. It is simply meeting its basic design requirements. The body that does not move enough is operating in a state of relative deprivation, lacking the stimulation it needs to maintain its natural function. For older adults, this perspective is particularly relevant because the types of movement that provide the most benefit are often the most accessible. Walking, for example, is frequently cited in longevity research as one of the most consistently beneficial activities. It requires no special equipment, no membership, no instruction. It can be done at any pace, for any duration, in almost any location, and it engages the body in exactly the ways it needs to be engaged, maintaining cardiovascular function, preserving lower body strength, supporting joint mobility, and providing gentle impact that helps maintain bone density. The research on walking is remarkably consistent. Studies that follow large groups of older adults over many years regularly find that those who walk regularly, even at modest paces, tend to maintain better physical function and experience fewer age-related declines than those who are largely sedentary. The benefit appears to follow a dose-response pattern. More walking is generally associated with greater benefit, up to a point, after which additional walking provides diminishing returns. But walking is not the only movement that matters. The body also needs activities that maintain strength, that challenge balance, that preserve the ability to rise from a chair or carry groceries or play with grandchildren. These functional capacities are not automatic. They must be practiced, or they will gradually diminish. Strength maintenance is particularly important because muscle mass naturally decreases with age in a process called sarcopenia. This is not a disease, but a predictable change, one that can be significantly moderated by regular strength-bearing activity. The muscles respond to demand. When they are regularly asked to generate force, they maintain their size and function much more effectively than when they are rarely challenged. This does not mean lifting heavy weights in a gym, though that is certainly an option for those who enjoy it. It means regularly engaging in activities that require the muscles to work against resistance. Carrying groceries, gardening, lifting grandchildren, doing household tasks that involve pushing, pulling, or lifting, climbing stairs, rising from a low chair without using armrests. These are all forms of strength maintenance disguised as daily life. Balance is another capacity that benefits from regular practice. The body's balance system involves complex coordination between the inner ear, the eyes, and the sensory receptors in muscles and joints. This system, like any other, becomes less precise without regular use. Simple activities that challenge balance in safe ways, standing on one foot while brushing teeth, walking heel to toe for a few steps, rising from a chair without using hands, can help maintain this capacity well into later years. The unifying principle across all these forms of movement is consistency. The body does not respond as well to occasional intense effort as it does to regular modest effort. A daily 20-minute walk provides more benefit than a weekly 2-hour hike. Not because the total time is greater, but because the body experiences the stimulus of movement every day. It adapts to that regular demand. It maintains the systems that support walking because those systems are used every day. This is the wisdom embedded in traditional cultures where older adults remain active throughout life. They do not exercise in the modern sense. They simply continue moving as part of daily existence. They walk to market. They tend gardens. They perform household tasks. They remain engaged with the physical world. Their bodies respond to this ongoing demand by maintaining the capacity to meet it. Part 3. The architecture of daily rhythm. Beyond movement, there is another layer of influence on how well the body functions over time. This layer has to do with rhythm, with the patterns and sequences that structure daily life. The human body is fundamentally a rhythmic organism. It operates on cycles, sleep and wake, activity and rest, feast and fast, light and dark. These cycles are not optional. They are built into the very fabric of our biology. The most obvious of these cycles is the circadian rhythm, the internal clock that regulates sleep and wakefulness, hormone secretion, body temperature, and countless other physiological processes. This rhythm is designed to align with the external cycle of day and night. When it aligns well, everything functions more smoothly. Sleep comes easily and is restorative. Energy peaks during daylight hours and declines in the evening. Digestion operates efficiently. Mood remains stable. When the circadian rhythm is disrupted, either by irregular schedules, poor sleep, or insufficient exposure to natural light, the effects ripple through the entire system. Sleep becomes less restorative. Energy becomes unpredictable. Cognitive function becomes less reliable. Even metabolic processes become less efficient, with research suggesting links between circadian disruption and difficulties with blood sugar regulation. For older adults, maintaining consistent daily rhythms can be particularly beneficial because the circadian system itself becomes somewhat less robust with age. The signals that keep it synchronized light exposure, meal timing, physical activity become more important as the internal clock becomes less powerful on its own. Regularity becomes a form of support for a system that still functions well but benefits from clear, consistent cues. This is where the concept of daily structure becomes relevant. A day that has predictable elements, a consistent wake time, regular meals, periods of activity, periods of rest, a consistent bedtime provides the body with the information it needs to maintain its internal rhythms. The body learns when to expect food, when to expect activity, when to expect rest. It prepares for these events in advance, releasing appropriate hormones and adjusting its systems accordingly. The opposite pattern, a day with no structure, with meals at varying times, sleep at varying hours, activity occurring randomly or not at all, leaves the body without clear guidance. The internal rhythms drift. Sleep becomes harder to initiate. Energy becomes harder to sustain. The body operates in a state of mild confusion, never quite sure what to prepare for next. This is not to suggest that every day must be identical or that spontaneity has no place in a full life. It is simply to observe that the body benefits from regularity, and that this benefit increases with age. The specific structure matters less than the consistency. A person who wakes at roughly the same time each day, eats meals at roughly the same times, and goes to bed at roughly the same time is providing their body with the rhythmic information it needs to function optimally. Sleep deserves particular attention in this context because it is the most obvious manifestation of the body's rhythmic nature. Good sleep is not merely the absence of wakefulness. It is an active physiological process during which the body performs essential maintenance. Tissues are repaired. Memories are consolidated. Metabolic waste products are cleared from the brain. Hormones are balanced. The immune system is calibrated. When sleep is inadequate or irregular, these processes are disrupted. The consequences accumulate over time, contributing to changes in cognitive function, metabolic health, immune resilience, and emotional regulation. This is why sleep quality is so consistently associated with health outcomes and research on aging. It is not that sleep itself is magical. It is that sleep is the period when the body performs essential maintenance that cannot be performed during wakefulness. Creating conditions that support good sleep is therefore not a luxury, but a fundamental aspect of maintaining health. These conditions include regular bedtimes and wake times, sufficient exposure to natural light during the day, a cool and dark sleeping environment, and the absence of stimulating activities in the hour before bed. They also include the resolution, to the extent possible, of worries and concerns that might otherwise occupy the mind during the night. Part 4. The environment we inhabit. There is a dimension of health that receives far less attention than diet or exercise, but may be equally significant. This is the quality of the immediate environment, the spaces where we spend the majority of our time. The relationship between environment and well-being is bidirectional. We shape our surroundings, and then our surroundings shape us. This is most obvious in the case of indoor air quality. The average person spends the vast majority of their time indoors, particularly in later years when retirement and potential mobility limitations reduce time spent outside. The air in those indoor spaces contains whatever is present in the home: dust, pet dander, mold spores, pollen, volatile compounds from cleaning products or furnishings. When these particles accumulate, they become part of the air we breathe. The respiratory system filters them to the best of its ability, but it has limits. Over time, chronic exposure to indoor pollutants can contribute to respiratory irritation, allergic responses, and reduced lung function. For individuals with existing respiratory conditions like asthma or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, the effects can be even more pronounced. This is where the ordinary practice of cleaning takes on a different significance. Cleaning is not merely about appearance or social expectations. It is about managing the quality of the indoor environment, about removing the particles and pollutants that would otherwise accumulate and become part of the air. Vacuuming with a machine that has a proper filter removes dust and dander before they can become airborne. Dusting with a damp cloth traps particles rather than scattering them. Reducing clutter eliminates the surfaces where dust accumulates and the hiding places where mold can develop. The same principle applies to the bedroom, where we spend approximately 1/3 of our lives. The quality of the sleeping environment affects the quality of sleep itself. A bedroom that is cluttered and dusty provides more respiratory irritants and more visual stimulation than a bedroom that is clean and orderly. Research has found associations between bedroom cleanliness and sleep quality, with people in tidier bedrooms generally falling asleep faster and reporting more restorative sleep. Beyond air quality, the environment also affects well-being through its influence on stress and cognitive load. A cluttered space requires more mental effort to navigate. The brain must process the visual chaos, must track the location of items that lack consistent homes, must constantly make decisions about where to place things and where to find them. This mental load is not trivial. It consumes attentional resources that could otherwise be directed toward more satisfying activities. An orderly space, by contrast, is cognitively efficient. Items have predictable locations. Surfaces are clear of distractions. The brain does not need to constantly process visual noise. This efficiency translates into reduced mental fatigue and a greater sense of ease in daily life. The space itself becomes a source of support rather than a source of demand. There is also a psychological dimension to the environment that deserves consideration. The spaces we inhabit are not neutral. They communicate messages to us continuously. A space that is cared for, that is maintained, that is orderly, communicates that we are worthy of care, that our surroundings matter, that we have agency over our environment. A space that is neglected, chaotic, and overwhelming communicates something different. That effort is futile. That order is unattainable. That we are not in control. These messages operate beneath conscious awareness, but they shape our emotional state nonetheless. This is why the experience of cleaning a space can feel genuinely satisfying even when the task itself is unenjoyable. The act of creating order sends a signal to the brain that we are capable, that we can affect our circumstances, that we can transform chaos into calm. The resulting space then continues to send that signal every time we enter it. Part 5. The attention economy of the mind. The human brain, for all its complexity, has a fundamental limitation. It can only attend to a limited number of things at once. This limitation has always existed, but it has become more consequential in the modern environment, where stimuli compete constantly for our attention. When attention is fragmented, when it is pulled in many directions simultaneously, the brain operates in a state of continuous partial engagement. It never fully settles on any one thing. It never enters the state of focused absorption that is associated with reduced stress and increased satisfaction. It skims the surface of experience without ever diving deep. This state of fragmented attention has physiological consequences. The stress response is activated more frequently. The body remains in a state of low-level alertness. Recovery and restoration are delayed because the brain never fully disengages from environmental demands. Over time, this pattern contributes to the accumulation of stress-related wear and tear on the body. The activities that counter this pattern are those that allow for focused attention, for absorption in a single task to the exclusion of everything else. These activities have many names in different traditions: flow states, absorption, concentration, meditation, but they share a common structure. They involve directing attention fully to one thing and sustaining that direction over time. For many people, the most accessible version of this state is found in everyday activities that require sustained attention. Working with the hands, engaging in repetitive physical tasks, focusing on a single object or process. These activities naturally draw attention away from the endless stream of thoughts and worries and toward the present moment. This is where ordinary household tasks reveal their deeper significance. Washing dishes by hand, with attention fully on the sensation of warm water and the movement of the cloth, can induce a state remarkably similar to formal meditation. Folding laundry, with attention on the texture of fabric and the rhythm of folding, can quiet the mind more effectively than many deliberate relaxation techniques. Vacuuming a room, with attention on the pattern of movement and the sound of the machine, can provide a period of mental rest that is genuinely restorative. The key is not the activity itself, but the quality of attention brought to it. The same task performed while the mind races through worries, plans, and regrets provides no mental rest. The same task performed with attention fully on the activity, with thoughts allowed to come and go without being engaged, becomes a form of mental restoration. This distinction is important because it reframes how we think about daily responsibilities. Tasks that might otherwise feel like burdens become opportunities for mental rest. The time spent on household maintenance is not time taken away from more important activities. It is time that can serve multiple purposes simultaneously, maintaining the environment, providing gentle physical activity, and giving the mind a period of focused calm. The research on this topic is surprisingly consistent. Studies examining the effects of repetitive physical tasks on mental state have found reductions in stress markers and improvements in mood that parallel those seen in formal meditation practices. The brain does not seem to distinguish between intentional meditation and absorbed attention in daily activities. It responds to the quality of attention, not the label attached to the activity. Part 6. The completeness of tasks. There is another dimension of psychological well-being that connects to daily activity, one that has to do with completion and closure. The human mind is designed to seek completion. It prefers finished to unfinished. It experiences satisfaction when tasks are brought to conclusion and dissatisfaction when they are left hanging. This preference has deep evolutionary roots. In ancestral environments, completing tasks was often necessary for survival. A shelter half-built provided less protection than a shelter completed. Food half-processed would spoil before it could be eaten. The mind evolved to reward completion with feelings of satisfaction and to penalize incompletion with feelings of unease. In modern life, this system still operates, but the tasks have changed. Instead of building shelters and processing food, we face endless streams of partially completable tasks. Emails that generate replies that generate more emails. Projects that have no clear endpoint. Responsibilities that recur endlessly without ever being finished. This mismatch between the mind's preference for completion and the reality of endless tasks contributes to a background sense of dissatisfaction. There is always more to do. Nothing is ever truly finished. The reward system that evolved to encourage completion rarely gets to deliver its full signal. This is where household tasks have a unique advantage. They can be completed. The dishwasher can be emptied entirely. The counter can be wiped completely clean. The bed can be made. Finished. Done. These completions may be temporary. The dishwasher will need emptying again tomorrow, but they are genuine completions in the moment. The task is finished. The goal is achieved. The reward system can deliver its signal. The experience of completing a task, even a small one, triggers the release of dopamine in the brain. This is the same neurotransmitter involved in motivation, reward, and the experience of pleasure. Each completed task provides a small dose of this feel-good chemical. Each completed task reinforces the sense that effort leads to results, that goals can be achieved, that we are effective agents in our own lives. This effect accumulates. A person who completes multiple small tasks throughout the day experiences multiple small rewards. The cumulative effect is a baseline sense of satisfaction and capability that is noticeably different from the experience of a day spent without clear completions. The tasks do not need to be large. They simply need to be finished. For older adults, this dynamic is particularly relevant because other sources of completion may become less available. Career achievements are largely in the past. Major life projects may be completed. The days may contain fewer obvious milestones. Creating small completions through daily tasks provides a reliable source of the satisfaction that comes from finishing what we start. Part 7. The intelligence of repetition. There is a tendency in modern thinking to value novelty over repetition, to seek new experiences and avoid doing the same thing twice. This tendency has its place, but it can obscure the genuine value of repetition in human life. Repetition is how the body learns. It is how skills are developed, how capacities are maintained, how rhythms are established. The body does not respond to occasional novel stimuli by building lasting capacity. It responds to repeated demands by adapting to meet those demands consistently. This is true at every level of biology. Muscles strengthen in response to repeated loading. Neural pathways become more efficient with repeated use. Metabolic systems calibrate themselves based on repeated patterns of food intake. The circadian rhythm synchronizes to repeated patterns of light and dark. The body is fundamentally a pattern recognition system, designed to detect and adapt to whatever patterns occur most regularly. When daily life lacks repetition, when every day is different from the last, the body never receives clear signals about what to adapt to. It remains in a state of readiness for anything, which is actually a state of preparation for nothing specific. It never fully develops the capacities that would make daily life easier because daily life never presents the same demands twice. The traditional structure of daily life, across virtually all human cultures until very recently, was built on repetition. The same tasks recurred each day. The same rhythms structured each week. The same seasonal activities marked each year. This repetition was not a failure of imagination. It was the architecture within which human bodies and minds could find their natural rhythm. Repetitive tasks, performed regularly, provide the body with exactly the kind of clear signals it needs. Waking at the same time each day tells the circadian rhythm when to expect wakefulness. Eating meals at regular times tells the digestive system when to prepare for food. Walking the same route each morning tells the cardiovascular and musculoskeletal systems what level of demand to maintain. Performing the same household tasks regularly tells the body what capacities to preserve. This is not to suggest that variety has no value or that life should become a monotonous routine. It is simply to recognize that repetition and variety serve different purposes. Variety challenges the body in new ways, preventing stagnation and maintaining adaptability. Repetition provides the consistent demand that allows the body to maintain specific capacities efficiently. Both are necessary, but in the modern context, repetition is often undervalued while variety is overvalued. For older adults, embracing the intelligence of repetition means recognizing that the daily tasks performed regularly are not merely chores to be completed as quickly as possible. They are the signals that tell the body what to maintain. Each time you perform a task that requires bending, you signal to your body that bending is a capacity worth preserving. Each time you perform a task that requires gripping, you signal that grip strength matters. Each time you perform a task that requires balance, you signal that balance is still needed. The body listens to these signals. It allocates its maintenance resources accordingly. It preserves what is used and gradually lets go of what is not. This is not a failure of the body. It is an efficient allocation of limited resources. The body cannot maintain everything forever. It must prioritize. It prioritizes based on demand. Part 8. Control and its limits. Among the most consistent findings in research on psychological well-being across the lifespan is the importance of perceived control. People who feel that they have some influence over their circumstances generally fare better than those who feel helpless or at the mercy of external forces. This association holds across multiple measures of health and well-being. The challenge, particularly in later life, is that many things genuinely are beyond our control. The body changes in ways we did not choose. Loved ones experience health challenges we cannot fix. The broader world operates according to dynamics we cannot influence. Accepting these limits is part of wisdom. But accepting limits does not require surrendering all sense of agency. The question becomes, where can control be exercised? What domains remain within our influence, even when larger circumstances are not? For most people, the answer includes the immediate environment. We may not be able to control our health outcomes entirely, but we can control whether our living space is orderly or chaotic. We may not be able to control what happens to loved ones, but we can control whether our home is a place of calm or a source of additional stress. This distinction matters because the experience of control is not abstract. It is built from concrete experiences of affecting outcomes. Each time we clean a room and see the result, we experience control. Each time we organize a space and find things more easily afterward, we experience control. Each time we complete a task from start to finish, we experience control. These experiences accumulate into a general sense of capability that carries over into other domains. The opposite is also true. When the immediate environment is chaotic and overwhelming, when nothing ever seems to stay clean or organized, when tasks are never completed, the experience is one of helplessness. The mess returns as soon as it is cleaned. The clutter accumulates faster than it can be managed. The space feels out of control, and that feeling generalizes to other areas of life. This is why maintaining order in the immediate environment is not trivial. It is practice in the experience of control. It is evidence, renewed daily, that our actions have effects, that we can influence our circumstances, that we are not merely passive recipients of whatever life sends our way. This evidence matters because the feeling of helplessness is genuinely harmful to health, while the feeling of capability is genuinely protective. The research on this topic is sobering. Studies of older adults in institutional settings have found that those who retain some control over daily decisions, when to eat, what to wear, how to spend time, show better health outcomes than those for whom all decisions are made by others. The difference is not small. It appears in measures of physical health, cognitive function, and even longevity. Control, it seems, is not merely a psychological comfort. It is a biological necessity. The body registers helplessness as a threat and responds accordingly, activating stress pathways that take a cumulative toll over time. The body registers capability as safety and responds with the calm of a system that is not under threat. Part 9. The body's own pharmacy. There is a dimension of daily experience that is rarely discussed in conversations about health, perhaps because it seems too simple or too obvious. This is the body's ability to produce its own beneficial chemicals in response to ordinary activities. The body manufactures a remarkable range of substances that influence how we feel and function. Endorphins, often called the body's natural painkillers, are released during physical activity and are associated with feelings of well-being and reduced perception of discomfort. Dopamine, involved in motivation and reward, is released when we accomplish tasks and achieve goals. Serotonin, which contributes to mood regulation, is influenced by exposure to natural light and by the sense of purpose and connection. These substances are not external medications that must be obtained and administered. They are internally produced, available to everyone, released in response to the conditions of daily life. The question is whether our daily lives provide the conditions that trigger their release. Physical activity triggers endorphin release. This does not require intense exercise. Gentle walking, gardening, housework, any sustained movement can stimulate the endorphin system. The effect is cumulative. Regular movement keeps the system primed, making endorphins more available when needed. Accomplishment triggers dopamine release. This does not require major achievements. Completing a small task, checking an item off a list, finishing a project, all stimulate the dopamine system. The effect is also cumulative. Regular small accomplishments maintain a baseline of dopamine activity that supports motivation and positive mood. Purpose and connection influence serotonin. This does not require grand missions. Feeling useful, contributing to others, maintaining relationships, engaging in activities that feel meaningful, all support serotonin function. The effect depends on consistency. Isolated moments of purpose are less powerful than ongoing engagement in activities that feel worthwhile. The body's internal pharmacy is always available, always ready to respond to the right conditions. But it requires those conditions. It does not release its beneficial chemicals in response to inactivity, isolation, or aimlessness. It waits for the signals that have always triggered its responses: movement, accomplishment, purpose, connection. This is one reason why the ordinary activities of daily life deserve more attention than they typically receive. Washing dishes while listening to music provides movement, provides a task that can be completed, provides sensory engagement that can be absorbing. Folding laundry provides similar elements. Gardening provides movement, purpose, connection to living things. Walking provides movement, exposure to nature, opportunities for observation and reflection. These activities are not merely filling time. They are triggering the body's internal pharmacy, releasing the chemicals that support well-being, maintain function, and buffer against stress. They are medicine in the oldest sense of the word, not something taken to treat disease, but something done to maintain health. Part 10. The integration of wisdom. If there is a single thread running through everything discussed so far, it is this: the body is designed to respond to the conditions of daily life. It adapts to whatever patterns are most consistent. It maintains what is used. It releases beneficial chemicals in response to beneficial activities. It registers control as safety and helplessness as threat. It seeks rhythm and responds to regularity. This design is not a problem to be solved. It is the reality within which we live. The question is not how to overcome this design or transcend it. The question is how to arrange daily life so that the body's natural responses support rather than undermine our well-being. For older adults, this question has particular urgency because the body's responses become more visible with age. The effects of irregular sleep are felt more immediately. The consequences of inactivity accumulate more visibly. The benefits of regular movement become more obvious. The body is less able to buffer against poor conditions and more responsive to good ones. This increased responsiveness can be understood as a form of clarity. The signals are clearer. The feedback is more immediate. The body is less forgiving of neglect and more appreciative of attention. This is not a curse. It is information. The body is telling us, with increasing clarity, what it needs and what it does not appreciate. The wisdom of traditional cultures and of older adults throughout history. has always included this understanding. The daily routines that seem simple, the morning walk, the afternoon rest, the evening meal shared with others, are not arbitrary. They are adaptations to the body's needs, refined over generations of observation and experience. They are the accumulated wisdom of bodies paying attention. Modern life has disrupted many of these routines without replacing them with anything equivalent. The result is that many people, particularly in later years, must rediscover for themselves the patterns that support well-being. This is not easy, but it is possible. The body still responds to the same signals it has always responded to. The internal pharmacy still releases its beneficial chemicals in response to the right conditions. The rhythms still seek alignment with the cycles of day and night. The task is not to add more to life, more activities, more supplements, more interventions. The task is to arrange daily life so that it naturally provides what the body needs. Movement integrated into the day rather than separated as exercise. Rhythms established through regular schedules rather than imposed through effort. Environment maintained as a source of support rather than a source of stress. Tasks completed as opportunities for accomplishment rather than burdens to be endured. This integration is not dramatic. It does not make for exciting stories or compelling transformations. It is quiet and gradual, built from small decisions repeated over time. But it is also powerful, because it works with the body rather than against it. It provides the conditions the body needs, and then allows the body to do what it has always done: maintain, adapt, respond, thrive. Conclusion: there is a tendency in conversations about health and aging to focus on the exceptional, the centenarian who still runs marathons, the supplement that promises to reverse decline, the intervention that claims to extend life. These stories are compelling because they are unusual. They stand out against the background of ordinary experience. But the wisdom that actually serves most people is not found in the exceptional. It is found in the ordinary, in the daily patterns that have supported human life for as long as humans have existed. Movement integrated into the day. Rhythms aligned with light and dark. Environment maintained as a source of support. Tasks completed as opportunities for satisfaction. Attention directed fully to the present activity. These are not dramatic interventions. They are the basic architecture of a life that supports well-being. The body knows this architecture. It has always known it. It responds to movement with maintained capacity. It responds to rhythm with efficient function. It responds to order with reduced stress. It responds to completion with satisfaction. It responds to attention with calm. These responses are not new discoveries. They are the oldest knowledge we possess, encoded in every cell, available to anyone who pays attention. For older adults, this knowledge is particularly accessible. A lifetime of experience has provided countless opportunities to observe what works and what does not. The body has been sending signals for decades, and those signals have not stopped. They may be clearer now than ever before, less cluttered by the noise of youth, more direct in their communication. The question is whether we are listening, whether we are paying attention to what the body tells us about movement, about rhythm, about environment, about completion, about attention. Whether we are arranging daily life to provide what the body needs rather than fighting against what the body is. The answer, for each person, is found not in any external guide, but in the quiet practice of paying attention, in noticing how it feels to move regularly versus remaining still, in observing how sleep responds to regular schedules versus irregular ones, in experiencing the difference between an orderly environment and a chaotic one, in feeling the satisfaction of completion and the unease of endless tasks. These observations are the true guide. They are the body's own wisdom, expressed in the only language it has, the language of feeling. a function of quiet signals that accumulate into clear patterns. Learning to hear that language, to trust it, to arrange life in response to it, is the oldest and most reliable path to well-being in later years. It is not a dramatic path. It does not promise transformation or guarantee exceptional outcomes. But it offers something perhaps more valuable: the quiet confidence of living in alignment with how the body actually works. The peace of knowing that daily life, ordinary as it may be, is providing what the body needs. The satisfaction of small completions, repeated regularly, accumulating into a life that feels worthwhile not despite its ordinariness, but because of it. This is the wisdom that older bodies have always held. It has not changed. It does not require the latest research to validate it, though the research increasingly does. It simply waits to be remembered, to be practiced, to be passed along to those who are still learning what the body has known all along. If there is one idea to carry forward from this conversation, it is this: the body does not distinguish between formal exercise and daily movement, between structured meditation and absorbed attention, between medical interventions and environmental conditions. It responds to whatever patterns are most consistent in your life. The question is not whether you are doing enough of the right things. The question is whether your daily life, in its ordinary texture, provides what your body needs to maintain what matters most to you. We would be honored to hear your thoughts on this. What patterns have you noticed in your own life? What daily practices have you found that support your sense of vitality? The comments below are a place for reflection and shared wisdom, and we read each one with genuine interest. If this conversation resonated with you, there are other films in this library that may speak to your concerns. We invite you to explore them and to subscribe so that new wisdom reaches you as it becomes available. Until then, may your days have rhythm, your spaces have calm, and your body have what it needs. This is the Longevity Library. Listen, learn, and live longer.